God always protects humans from troubles. The storm approaches. Life is full of unexpected challenges. For Sarah, a young woman living in a small town, the calm of everyday life often hid the storms waiting to come. One evening, as she returned from work, she noticed dark clouds gathering on the horizon. Her mind was restless. She had been worried about her father's health, her mounting bills, and her uncertain future. Though she tried to maintain a sense of control over her life, Sarah could not help but feel vulnerable. It was one of those nights when fear whispered constantly, reminding her of everything that could go wrong. But deep within, she felt a quiet sense of hope, a whisper that she was not alone. As the first drops of rain fell, she whispered a small prayer. God, please guide me through this storm. Protect me, my family, and everyone I love. Little did she know, this simple act of faith was the first step toward experiencing God's protection in ways she had never imagined. The unexpected test. The next day, Sarah received news that shook her. Her father had been diagnosed with a serious illness. Panic surged through her. The bills she had struggled to pay were now dwarfed by the looming costs of treatment. Fear clawed at her heart, and despair threatened to overwhelm her. At work, a critical project was failing, and her boss questioned her abilities. Every corner of her life seemed filled with trouble. But in the quiet of the night, she remembered the prayer she had whispered, and she found herself praying again, not for a specific outcome, but for strength, courage, and divine protection. She also noticed subtle signs around her. A colleague offered to help with her project without her asking. A neighbor sent over homemade soup and words of encouragement. These small acts reminded her that even in the darkest times, God's presence often manifests through the kindness of others. A friend in need. One evening, as Sarah walked home, rain poured heavily, soaking her clothes. She felt utterly helpless and lost. Suddenly, a car pulled over. It was her friend David, who insisted on giving her a ride home. In that moment, she realized that God often sends help in unexpected forms. David not only drove her safely home, but also stayed to talk to her, encouraging her not to give up. He reminded her that every challenge was temporary, and that God was always watching over her. Sarah felt a warmth in her heart, a reassurance that she was being guided and protected. It was then that she understood an important truth. Protection doesn't always mean removing difficulties, but giving strength and guidance to endure and overcome them. Miracles in disguise. As the weeks passed, Sarah's father underwent treatment. The financial burden seemed overwhelming, but help continued to arrive in surprising ways. A distant relative sent a donation anonymously, a local charity offered support, and her workplace provided additional benefits. Sarah reflected on these events and realized that God's protection often comes disguised as opportunities, assistance from strangers, and moments of unexpected grace. Each act reminded her that no matter how impossible a situation seemed, divine protection was always at work, quietly guiding her through. Even in her father's hospital room, she found moments of peace and hope. Every improvement in his health, every reassuring word from the doctors, felt like a small miracle. She began to understand that God's protection is not always immediate rescue. It is the strength, guidance, and support that help us navigate life's storms. Faith amid fear. Despite all the signs of divine care, fear sometimes returned. Sarah would lie awake at night, worrying about bills, the future, and her father's recovery. But she learned a crucial lesson. Fear loses power when faith is stronger. She began to spend time every morning in prayer and reflection, reading scriptures and seeking comfort in God's promises. She realized that protection from troubles was not about a life without challenges, but about having the courage, wisdom, and resilience to face them with God by her side. Through prayer, she felt a sense of calm that transcended logic. She no longer saw problems as insurmountable obstacles, but as opportunities to experience God's guidance and love. The power of prayer. Sarah discovered that prayer is not just asking for help, it is a conversation with the divine. One night, feeling overwhelmed, she prayed with complete honesty, sharing her fears, frustrations, and hopes. As she spoke, a remarkable peace settled over her heart. The next day, she found solutions she hadn't thought of. Her boss appreciated her work, her father's treatment showed promising results, and small financial hurdles began to ease. It became clear that God had heard her prayers and was working in unseen ways to protect her and guide her steps. She realized that troubles might still come, but prayer created a shield around her spirit, allowing her to face challenges without despair. Protection was not about escaping life's storms. It was about weathering them with faith and hope. Seeing God's hand. As months passed, Sarah looked back on her journey and noticed the many ways God had intervened. From her father's health slowly improving to financial support arriving just in time, every difficulty had a silver lining. She remembered the dark nights when fear seemed overwhelming and realized that those were the very moments when God's protection was most evident. Life was not perfect, but it was filled with divine care, subtle miracles, and lessons that shaped her into a stronger, more compassionate person. She shared her experiences with friends and neighbors, encouraging them to trust in God's protection even when life seemed unfair. Sarah had learned that faith was not just personal. It was meant to inspire and uplift others. Lessons learned. From her struggles, Sarah drew several lessons. 1. God protects in unexpected ways. Help often comes through people, opportunities, or circumstances we don't anticipate. 2. Faith strengthens resilience. Even in fear, trusting in God provides courage to face challenges. 3. Prayer is powerful. Honest communication with God brings peace and guidance. 4. Every difficulty has a purpose. Challenges teach patience, gratitude, and empathy. 5. Protection doesn't mean absence of problems. It means having the strength and support to overcome them. Sarah realized that protection from God was ongoing. Life would continue to present challenges, but she no longer feared them. Instead, she faced each day with faith, hope, and gratitude. Living with faith. With her father's health improving and her life stabilizing, Sarah dedicated herself to helping others. She volunteered at local charities, supported friends in their struggles, and shared her story of God's protection. Through her actions, she understood a profound truth. God's protection is most evident when it inspires us to help others. Life's challenges are temporary, but the love, hope, and compassion we share endure. She also realized that protection is not about controlling life, but trusting that God's guidance will lead to growth, healing, and eventual joy. Every small victory, every act of kindness, and every answered prayer was a reminder that she was never alone. Heart of gratitude. Sarah's journey taught her the power of gratitude. She thanked God for the strength to face challenges, for the people who became instruments of divine help, and for every small miracle in her life. Even when troubles arose, she no longer reacted with panic. She prayed, trusted, and looked for signs of God's protection in every situation. Her life became a testimony that divine care is constant, even when invisible. She often said, "God doesn't always remove the storm, but He teaches us to dance in the rain." And through her faith, she inspired countless others to find courage, hope, and peace in the assurance that God always protects humans from troubles. Eternal perspective. Ultimately, Sarah understood that life's true protection is eternal. While temporary difficulties come and go, God's love and guidance are constant. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow closer to Him, to deepen faith, and to experience divine presence in everyday life. She learned that protection is not only about avoiding harm, but about being nurtured, guided, and strengthened to face life with courage and joy. With this eternal perspective, she faced each day with unwavering trust, knowing that no trouble is greater than God's care. Conclusion: life is unpredictable, filled with joys and sorrows, successes and setbacks. Yet, the story of Sarah reminds us of a timeless truth. God always protects humans from troubles. His protection may come as guidance, strength, support, or subtle miracles. Sometimes it shields us. Other times, it equips us to endure. Faith, prayer, and trust in God provide a shield for the soul, transforming fear into courage and despair into hope. Life's storms are inevitable, but with divine protection, no challenge is insurmountable.